kabayan. Good morning everyone. Buongiorno, Milano. Nandito na naman tayo sa Polo Milan webinar series. Sa araw na ito, we will be focusing again on violence against women, ngunit sa ibang perspective in the light of the pandemic. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our beloved Consul General of the Philippine Consulate General Milan in Italy, and other heads of post, Consul General Dina Amatong of Vienna Philippine Embassy. Sa araw na ito, we are joined by several other consulates and embassies at ang ating mga manonood ay galing po sa iba't ibang bansa ng Europa mula Milan, Italy, Vienna, Austria, Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia, Budapest, Hungary, Romania, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, and Moldova. To introduce first our beloved Consul General to give us a brief message. Our Consul General Bernadette C. Fernandez is the incumbent Consul General of the Philippine Consulate General in Milan, Italy. Prior to her assignment in Milan PCG, she served as the Deputy Consul General at the Philippine Consulate General in Toronto, Canada. She was the Minister and Consul General at the Philippine Embassy in London in 2006 to 2012, and the second Secretary and Consul at the Philippine Embassy in Beijing in 1997 to 2003. In Manila, she took up various assignments, among them as Executive Director and Acting Assistant Secretary at the Office of the UN in International Organizations from 2014 to 2016, and Director at the European Affairs from 2013 to 2014. Consul General Fernandez obtained her degree in Bachelor of Arts, major in Psychology at the Ateneo de Manila University. She is married to fellow diplomat attorney Francisco Noel Fernandez and currently the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Philippine Embassy in Ottawa, Canada. Without further ado, may you please welcome our Consul General Bernadette Fernandez. Good morning po, ma'am.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, good morning, ma'am.
Thank you, Corina. Warmest welcome to all our participants in this morning's webinar organized by the Philippine Overseas Labor Office of the Philippine Consulate General in Milan on the occasion of the National Women's Month this March. My colleagues in the consulate are here. I see here the welfare officer and other colleagues in the labor office as well as in the welfare office. I wish to acknowledge the presence of Ms. Dina Joy Amatong, Chargé d'Affaires of the Philippine Embassy in Vienna, and other colleagues in the Philippine Foreign Service. I wish to thank all of the Filipino leaders and members of the communities in Europe that have been invited to this webinar for joining us this morning. Isa po sa mga masalimuot na usapin ay ang violence against women and children. Kahit noon pang wala pang pandemya, marami na pong mga kaso nito ng pang-aabuso sa babae at sa mga kabataan na nangyayari sa loob ng bahay, sa paaralan, sa trabaho, sa piling ng mga taong pinagkatiwalaan mo tungkol sa kaligtasan o kapakanan ng inyong mga anak o mga inaalagaan. Hindi maikakaila na kung noon ay may pang-aabuso sa paraan ng pagsusulat o paglatag ng litrato, mas marami rin pong pagkakataon na nangyayari ito sa pamamagitan ng social media sa panahon ngayon. The situation was further aggravated by the pandemic, which locked people inside their homes, brought about fear, limited financial resources. These situations empowered aggressors to be abusive. As for the victims, the lockdown and its after effects got them into thinking that it would be more difficult to run to the police or to enforcement agents or to contact friends and to assist when an abusive situation sets in. Indeed, the rights of women must be upheld and the rights of children must be protected. The Philippines is a strong proponent of the rights of the child and proof of this is the active participation of the Philippine government in the promotion and protection of children, its accession in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and laws that have always promoted and prioritized the family and children. I wish to thank our Philippine Overseas Labor Office in Milan for organizing this webinar and for inviting Ms. Anne Angala, founder of the In the Pink, a movement for women empowerment, to share her knowledge and for making herself available this morning. I take this opportunity to inform the participants that due to current COVID prevention or COVID transmission control and restrictions imposed by the Italian government, the consulate will be closed to the public from tomorrow, 15 March 2021, until April 5, 2021. We are in the process of calling up the clients to reschedule their appointments for passports and other legalization and other transactions. We will be available to assist emergency concerns such as issuance of nula osta for the deceased, emergency issuance of travel documents for emergency travel. Likewise, the assistance to national section will be available to assist. Hinihingi po namin ang inyong paumanhin, kooperasyon at pangunawa. Manatili po tayong ligtas sa sakuna at manatiling protektado sa pamamagitan ng maayos na pagsuot ng maskerina, guwanti, paghugas ng kamay at pagsasaalang-alang ng distansya sa bawat isa. For now, let us sit back and maybe get a pen and a paper so we can jot down notes and we can learn more about this morning's webinar. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Consul General. Maraming salamat sa inyong message ukol sa ating topic for today. Gaya po ng sabi ni Consul General Bernadette Fernandez, ang VAWC, ang Violence Against Women, ay isang napakatinding issue na matagal na nating hinaharap. To introduce our topic, 1 out of 3 women worldwide experience physical and sexual violence, mostly perpetrated by an intimate partner. Grabe po itong statistic na ito. Ang violence against women and children is a human rights violation. Ngunit ang isang napakatinding obserbasyon ay during the outbreak of COVID-19, emerging data and reports from those on the front lines have shown that all types of violence against women and children, particularly domestic violence, has intensified. Tumaas po ito. Mas marami pong okasyon ng violence ngayon. Nais po namin dito sa Polo Milan, katulong ng ating mga resource speakers gaya ni Ms. Anne Angala na akin i-introduce in a few minutes. We need to exert a global collective effort to stop domestic violence. Isa pong paraan na naiisip namin dito sa Polo Milan ay simulan sa pagkakalat ng impormasyon, knowledge and information dissemination para maintindihan natin ang issue na sumasakop sa domestic violence. And by understanding the issue, we will learn how to address and how to establish efforts to stop this. Ano po ang kulang? Ano po ang kailangan? Ano ang nangyayari ngayon? Ito ang mga masasagot natin sa webinar ito, kaya tinihikayat po namin kayong lahat na makinig maigi. Sa huli po ng pagkatapos ng ating speaker, maaari po tayong mag-comment, mag-question. Ngunit hinihikayat po namin ng lahat na makinig sa ating speaker for today, Ms. Anne Angala, para maintindihan po natin at makakalap ng additional knowledge ukol sa ating topic today. Let me introduce to you Ms. Anne Angala. She is the founder of In the Pink, a women empowerment movement. Siya po ay isang domestic violence survivor. She endured an 18-year relationship of which bore her 5 children. She used to be an artist manager and media practitioner for popular local bands, Eraserheads, Bamboo, The Dawn, Barbie's Cradle, even the iconic band of the 80s, as in YouTube sensation, Jerry Lynn, and many more. But when she finally broke free from the violence and found out her life's mission, she is to be an example that there is a beautiful life waiting after a terrible storm. She is now an advocate of gender equality and anti-violence. She does talks all over the country and all over the world, as we have heard today, on how to overcome abuse. She wants to share her story, her children's story, about domestic violence and how we will find a light out of this darkness. She's also a champion of sustainable lifestyle. Her projects during the pandemic led to the creation of numerous backyard and community farms. Their strong support of biking as a form of transport addressed the pandemic transport crisis. The positive action of Bikers United Marshals, a group she co-founded, is credited greatly for the existing bike lanes across the Philippines. Anne's and her children's inspiring story has empowered not only women, but numerous men and children as well. So without further ado, let us welcome Miss Anne Angala. Good morning, Anne.
Morning, attorney, and good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I am so honored to be here in front of you now, kahit virtual lang po ito. I think this is also great because we're going all across Europe and touching the lives and the hearts ng mga kababayan po natin dyan. So, as attorney mentioned a while ago, I am a victim and survivor. Actually, I want to put emphasis on survivor of domestic violence. Kasi po, I think this is the way to go. No? I'm not here to share my story para paiyakin kayo or para sumama yung loob niyo, but to give everybody watching and maybe even your friends or those you want to share my story with, hope na hindi po end of the line yung abuse, although you might think it is. So let me start by giving a short introduction of myself. So let me share my screen. Okay, so this is our webinar for today. Okay, so I'm Anne Angala. I'm a sustainability advocate. Let me introduce to you my parents. Where they're already gone. No, my dad is a lawyer. He is very intelligent. He topped the bar. I think he was number 6 or number 7 during his time. And my mom naman, she's a very gregarious.
Alin ang pinindot mo? Call over internet.
She's a very gregarious woman, and she's a businesswoman. Okay, so kind of that is my lifestyle. I'm the only child. I'm the only daughter. Tatlo kami magkakapatid. Meron akong kuya, meron akong younger brother. So makikita nyo na napalibutan po ako ng 2 lalaki sa bahay namin. So early on, medyo nandun na yung inequality na nangyayari. Ramdam ko siya pero hindi ko siya ma-explain kasi nga naman napaka-common yung nangyayari po sa atin. Like there was a time when I was in college, sasabihin ko sa daddy ko na papahiram ng kotse, sasabihin sa akin ng papa ko, tanong mo muna sa kuya mo kung may kumilakad siya. Parang ako, ba't ganon? Yung mga ganon na maliliit na mga bagay. Tapos, kailangan sinusundo ako at a certain time, curfew, pero yung mga kapatid ko, pwedeng lumarga anytime they want. So again, it's already part of the system. And then, like the course that I took was filmmaking. 91 ako nag-grad. So 87, way back then, yun yung course na gusto ko. Mass comm ako pumasok. Tapos, dahil sa production ako, maraming mga shooting, maraming mga out of town, ganon. Umabot sa point na yung mami ko sabi sa akin, ano ba daw klaseng course meron ako? Tigilan ko na daw at wag na daw ako mag-aral. Something like that. So parang hindi ako supported. Pero but not my brothers who would go out in gimmicks to Tagaytay and to Baguio with the car, okay lang sa kanila, walang problema. So that was the kind of atmosphere I grew up with. My parents were able to provide us well, na paaral kami sa mabuting eskwelahan. Nabibili naman yung mga basics namin. We eat 3 times a day. But then they were not a nurturing family. I never heard I love you from my parents until they passed away. My mom and dad never hugged me. They never affirmed me. Hindi ako sinabihan ng pag nag-graduate ako with honors or whatever, na hindi ako nasabihan ng parents ko na, uy, good job, Ann, ang galing ng anak ko. I never heard that until nawala na lang po sila. So I grew up kind of needy of affection. And then this is the world I moved around in. I managed Eraserheads, yung pinaka-bottom. There's Ellie, and then sa Sunken Garden kami. Because this is where we studied, this is where I met the band. So medyo old na, 94, 95 pa yata yan. I don't know if you're familiar with this guy on the left, yung blonde, si Carl Roy. He's also one of the icons back then during, I think, 96, 90, 95, 96. Very, very good guy. So, and then I also worked with Jairi Lim, very new. He was my newest, but then I stopped already after him. I stopped managing after him. Jairi Lim is the singer and composer of the song Buko and Magkabilang Mundo. I believe that's very popular among OFWs kasi yung Magkabilang Mundo na song, I think it became popular like 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway, so ito, I was moving again in a world na puro lalaki kasi yun na yung comfort zone ko kasi dalawang lalaki yung kapatid ko, all my cousins were male also. Wala po akong babaeng pinsan na kaedad ko na nandito sa Manila. So puro lalaki yung kasama ko. Pero I got so much discriminated. Like if we visit vegan, kasi taga doon yung mom ko, pag nag-visit kami ng vegan at magmomotor lahat, iiwan nila ako kasi sasabihin nila sa akin na hindi pwede yung babae sa motor kasi babae ka, baka mahulog ka. Nahuhulog din naman ng lalaki. Parang gano'n. So anyway, these were all parang double-edged yung pagpapalaki sa akin. And I believe it's also how it is in most of our lives up until now. And this is my family. Okay, so I kind of had to cover up my husband because as I said, I'm a domestic violence survivor. So mukha kaming okay na pamilya. I have 5 kids. You know, the front that I put up was very strong. I was managing all these bands and I was married. I was abused behind the scene and there were very little hints that I was abused because nahihiya ako na malaman ng mga taong to na binubugbog ako ng asawa ko na dapat nagpoprotekta sa akin. So, yun po. So, as attorney mentioned a while ago, I was 19 years married, 18 years abused. So, isang taon lang talaga yung buhay ko na hindi ako nakatikim ng abuse na bugbog. But I think verbally or emotionally, I already was abused. And if only I knew what abuse was back then, if somebody would have gave me a seminar like this, I probably wouldn't have endured that long. Me and my children wouldn't probably have said, okay, you know, hit me and it's okay. And if you say sorry, I forgive you. But again, I'm very happy sharing my story and I'm, pinapakita ko po sa inyo that I come from a middle class family. I'm educated. My parents were educated. But then abuse can happen to anybody. So my point is, hindi po nakakahiya ang abuse. Kailangan po, if you're abused, you talk about it and you ask for help. I did not. I kept it under wraps. And me, okay lang sana ako but my children suffered so much. So let me define to you what is abuse. Abuse is hurting. Abuse is violating the rights of somebody else. Abuse is when may na-oppress na, may nakakalamang. Napakasimple po nung definition nito, pero marami pong hindi nakakaintindi at nakakaalam kung ano talaga ang ibig sabihin nito. Una, kasi siguro sanay na tayo na meron ito sa araw-araw na buhay natin. Ano yung 4 different kinds of abuses? First is physical, yung pinaka-obvious. Siyempre, yung inuupakan ka, binububog ka, tinatadyakan ka, ano pa ba? Pinipingot bilang bata, 'di ba? Parang pinipingot, kinukurot. Akala mo maliit lang 'yon, pero that is abuse. And then pinapabayaan lang natin. Verbal or psychological abuse. Ikaw bata ka, pasaway ka, 'di ba? Ang bobo-bobo mo talagaan, gano'n. Hindi lang ako makakasunod. Kunyari pupunta ako sa isang party at malilate ako dumating, tapos ang kapal naman ng mukha mo, ang dami mo ng anak, ganyan oras ka pa umuwi. So those kinds of things that we hear, I would think it's a regular thing. I mean, I never heard that from my parents because, we really didn't talk. So I didn't know that that was abuse already. And I guess on his side, on my abuser's side, since he grew up abused and hearing these things from his parents and the people around him, he did not also know that the definition of ang bastos mo or PI ka or gaga ka is already an abuse in itself. So, maraming ignorante or innocent na abusive na pala sila. That's why, yes, tama po kayo na we really need to beef up our education. You know, I'm doing this. I want to go to barangays. I want to go to schools to say that yung mga maliliit na akala niyong hindi abuse na nangyayari sa paligid niyo from your teachers, from the man on the street, from the driver, from the jeepney driver, from the trike driver, from your father. These are little things you think it's not abuse. But then, pag na-escalate na, di ba, abuse pala siya. Hindi natin alam. So there's physical, there's verbal, there's verbal and psychological. Stalking. Pag hiningi ng asawa mo yung password at hindi nagtitiwala sa'yo sa Facebook mo kasi akalang ng lalaki o ng babae ka. Kapag sundan-sundan ka sa opisina, at akala na meron kang ka-affair sa opisina mo, dyan sa embassy, kunyari, sabihin, sumusunod, biglang magpapakita dyan sa lobby. So, that is a form of abuse too. Psychological, another verbal, yung mga mabaliit, pinamaliit ka, na wala ka namang alam, let's say you're not as intelligent as your husband or your wife, but nobody has a right to put you down because you have your own strength too as a person. Another is financial abuse, kapag nag-withhold ng pera para makontrol ka. Hindi kita bibigyan ng allowance mo kung hindi ka umuwi ng maaga today. 'Di ba? Napaka-classic. Or sorry, eksakto lang pang grocery or kulang pa yung pang grocery kasi hindi ka sumunod sa akin nung sinabi ko sa iyo pumunta ka dito, something like that. Another form of financial abuse is when you have an opportunity in your office to earn a master's degree or a PhD. Pero sasabihin niya, with no logical reason at all, sasabihin niya sa'yo, sorry, bawal, hindi pwede. So that is already a form of financial abuse because further education will add sa inyong sweldo o sa mga kita ninyo o sa mga racket ninyo. Kung hindi ka niya pinayagan mag-MA or mag-PhD, hindi tataas, 'di ba? Yung sweldo niyo, especially like in government, 'di ba? And in the education sector, that MA and that PhD counts a lot, 'di ba? Umaangat-angat yung level ninyo. And the last, of course, is the sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is when you don't give your consent to the sexual act. A no is a no, hindi yung okay lang. Ibig sabihin, pag okay lang, hesitant yung partner o kung sino man yung babae o lalaki. And I'm talking in general here. Yes, we're talking VAWC because this is the Women's Month, but men are also abused. I know a group on Facebook, so sa mga lalaki po who want a little more information about abuse in men, there's a group on Facebook called Jego Silang, and halos lahat doon, or I think lahat, syempre naka-incognito kasi, di ba, ano naman ang tingin sa mga lalaking abuse? Again, under the saya. Again, walang, alam nyo na kung ano, di ba? Parang you have, your thing is between your leg, something like that. So again, it is very common. If kung ang babae ay na-abuse, ang lalaki rin po at ang bata na-abuse. So this again is nothing that we should be ashamed of. And our biggest topic now is abuse and the pandemic. Nung na-announce nung 15th, almost happy anniversary na pala ang pandemic natin, I mean yung lockdown natin, nung na-announce po yon ng presidente na lockdown, ang unang kaba ko talaga is, oh my, malalockdown yung mga na-abuse because I was going through an abuse without the pandemic and I was going through hell. Me and my kids were going through hell. What more, this men, women, or children locked down with their abuser and they cannot do anything. And again, I am so happy to be hearing that there are programs, to be able to help, to be able to reach out. Kasi reach out talaga eh. Una, you're in this dark, you're in a gloom na hindi mo alam kung sinong lalapitan mo. Tapos, ikukulong ka pa sa bahay mo na hindi ka makalabas hanggang garahe ka lang, kung may garahe ka man, hanggang dun ka lang sa kwarto at face-to-face pa kayo nung abuser mo. Tapos, all these things are happening. There's stress because you can't go out. they're stressed because there's uncertainty. Hindi mo alam kung matatapos na itong pandemic. We thought the pandemic was going to be 2 weeks. We thought the pandemic was going to be 1 month. We thought 6 months. But now it's already a year and we don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Napaka-dark pa rin. And then may bagong strain from all over. And then a lot of cities dito sa Manila, ang dami pong mga barangay na naka-lockdown. I'm not so sure how it is in the different communities there, but I'm sure, it is also as bad as we're experiencing here. So this pandemic is really putting everybody in a stressful, anxious situation. So we all need help. Like ako, I couldn't imagine myself to be locked up with my abuser, with my children. Parang wow. Hindi ko nakakaiyak po talaga. Tapos yung thought na isa pang nag-a-add ng anxiety sa mga tao, nawala ng trabaho. Kahit na sabihin mong wala kang anxiety before, this triggers it. These are huge triggers for you to project dun sa inyong asawa, kasama mo sa bahay, sa iyong anak, na kung ano man yung stress na nararamdaman mo at anxiety, ibubuntun natin sa ating mga kasama sa bahay kasi wala naman tayong mapaglabasan o kaya sa aso nyo, hindi ko alam kung kanino pa pwedeng mabunton yung sama ng loob nyo at lahat ng frustration, especially pag ikaw yung padre de pamilya at nawalan ka ng trabaho. Sa babae naman, ang laki rin ng effort na napunta sa babae kasi yung pagkain ng buong pamilya mo, hirap na hirap ka na financially, hindi mo alam kung paano mo pagkakasyahin yung kinikita, kung may kinikita ka man. Kung may ayuda man, paano mo pakakainin ng tamang anak mo pag delata yung natatanggap mo? That is so stressful. Napupunta pa sa'yo yung distance learning ng anak mo, and we're hearing so much horror stories about this, the modules upon modules upon modules, na yung mga parents who have no capacity to teach their children, number one. Number two is that tambak-tambak po siya. Kasi dumaan ako doon, my kids, one of my children is going through that. Hindi pa tapos yung module niya, tapos wala naman silang books. They have books, I'm sorry, meron silang books, but they don't have online instructions. So hirap na hirap po sila. So I cannot imagine yung mga nanay who have to teach their kids na 2 o 3 at nakakulong lang sila sa bahay. So again, a huge burden is forced upon women during this pandemic. And then again, there's a decrease in services. Wala kang matakbuhan na barangay, wala kang matakbuhan na social services. Ang PNP ang hirap pumunta kasi all these things, wala kang sasakyan, pinagbabawalan kang lumabas, yung mga ganon. So again, this kind of situation is really so aggravated by this pandemic. And again, we cannot do anything except, to reach out to these people and make the government programs you were saying a while ago. Mental health and abuse. This is one thing na hindi masyadong napapag-usapan, no? I've been an advocate of mental health, and I was very happy when the mental health bill came out, because I don't believe that any abuser is capable of, any person is capable na manakit ng kanilang mahal sa buhay on a regular basis kung walang mental health issue. Okay, I'm not saying sira ulo. I'm just saying there's something happening mentally that is not stable. Okay, ang hirap kasi dito sa atin, sa kultura natin, we don't readily accept mental health issues. One classic example was my mom, tungkol sa mental health. She was very depressed after my dad died, and even before that, she already had issues dealing with her emotions. And I kept on telling her, Ma'am, punta ka sa psychologist. Tapos sasabihin niya sa akin, ayoko nga, nakakaya. Sabihin nila sira ulo ako. Ganon. It's very same thing with abusers, no? Because abusers are sometimes narcissists. Ito yung mga red flags, no, of abusers. So, sa mga hindi pa kinakasal at nakikita nyo itong mga signs na to, sa mga partners nyo pa lang at sa mga kadate ninyo, you might want to think twice before getting married. narcissists. What are narcissists? Most of the narcissists are abusers. Most of the abusers are narcissists. I mean, that's what I mean to say. They're the ones who will not take responsibility for anything. They will blame their bosses pag hindi nila natupad yung kanilang, kunyari, yung kanilang project. Kasi si boss, hindi nakaskade ng mabuti sa akin yung dapat na gawin. Pag na-late sila pag na-late sila sa office, sasabihin nila, kasi yung grab ko, late dumating eh. Kapag mali yung nagawa nilang trabaho, sasabihin nila, yung sekretarya ko. Kapag yung asawa na-late, sasabihin niya, basta, they will all make excuses. Narcissists will never take responsibility and they will all blame somebody else. They are people who are very ma-PR sila. They look very okay in front of people, but then behind, in the confines of their own homes, they're the ones who are abusive. Usually, married sila sa mga tao, women who are strong or men who are strong, because like I was married to a narcissist, and I can say that I'm a strong woman, but because I wanted to understand him, because I wanted to, I loved him so much, I wanted to make the marriage last and give my children a father, I withstood that. Hindi ko, tinake ko, tinago ko, pero again, red flag. Kung may nakikita kayong mga ganong signs po sa inyong partner, ang advice ko po sa inyo, tignan yung, pag-isipan yung mabuti, or if he agrees to go to a mental health professional, that's good. Pero most of them don't want to go because they're narcissists. They will never ever admit that there's something wrong with them. Then walang healing na nangyayari. Yun po. So what else are mental health and abuse? The women or men who are battered are in a battered wife syndrome. Actually, dapat battered partner syndrome siya. Na you stay in that relationship because you think things are going to change. Magsusorry, uupakan kayo, tapos magsusorry or mumurahin kayo, tapos magsusorry, and then there's a calm stage and you think, oh, everything's gonna be all right because he or she said sorry, and then it goes back to the incident. Kapag naisip na naman niya na may ginawa kang mali, ay nako, sira ulo ka talaga. Abuse starts, tapos pagkatapos nun, marirealize na matatauhan siya, magsusorry. That happened to me. 18 years akong pag ganon-ganon. Ikot ako ng ikot until sabi ko na sa sarili ko, parang tama na tama na to. Masyado nang maraming nadadamay. Buti kung ako lang yung nabubugbog, ako lang emotionally and physically nabubugbog. Eh yung mga anak ko was getting the same amount of hitting as I was. And that's really bad. So let me go to my next topic, which is abuse in culture and society. Okay, I can say from my experience of 18 years and helping women and men and children who are abused, I can say that abuse is very cultural. No, it's part of society. What is culture? Okay, we're very patriarchal. Nung pre-colonial times, kung babalikan natin, kahit basahin natin from history books, women and men were equal sa Pilipinas. There were women had rights, there was divorce, we had roles in the society, but then hindi looked down upon ang mga babae in society until we were colonized. Again, I'm not blaming colonization. I'm just saying that there are some things that happened to us because of the 300 years that we were under a rule. So, because of this, women became second-class citizens. So, pumasok na sa kultura natin na ang mga babae ay hindi equal ng lalaki. Hindi pwede ang babae na pare, lalaki lang. Mostly, 90% of those in government will be men. The gobernador, yung mga ganon, they're all men, not women. Let's go even to religion. Meron akong very classic experience nangyari dito, no? So I go to church, I'm part of a D group. I was opening up to my D group leader of the abuse that was happening to me, and she told me, and it says in our Bible that you stick with your husband. The Proverbs 31 woman, okay? I think that is blinding because I think God would not want us to be abused. I think God would want us to be in a situation where all happy. Okay? Siguro na-miss out doon, may fine text doon na, but then do not let yourself be abused. If your husband is an abuser or your partner is an abuser, then get out of it. It doesn't, you don't stay in that situation and get everybody involved in that kind of situation. Culture. Ano pa ba yung nagawa ng culture? Okay. Um, I used to live in a condo. I was getting beaten up by my husband in front of my 2 children and our yaya. Sabi ko doon sa yaya, sabi ko, sabi ko, tawagin niyo naman yung guard doon sa baba at sabihin mo baka mapatay na ako ng asawa ko. Tapos sabi niya sa akin, ate, sorry, kasi hindi po ako pwedeng makialam kasi away mag-asawa po yan. So again, nawasak ako when I heard her say that. Pero kung papakinggan ko yung sinasabi niya, I think ito po yung mga sinasabi ng magulang sa kanya. Ito siguro ang sinabi sa kanya na, oy, pag may nakikita ka nagbubugbugong mag-asawa, huwag mong papakialaman yan. Napaka-cultural, napaka-Pilipino. Naririnig na natin na inuupakan, walang nakikialam. Ako po, and then so I went to the apartment of my son. Na apartment po yung son ko kasi nakahiwalay siya sa amin because he was studying in a different place. I would visit him once in a while. And then, yung typical apartment na 10 ang butas, tapos kami yung pinakauna, puno po lahat ng bahay, lahat ng apartment na punong-puno ng tao yon. 2, 3, 4 sa isang bahay. Dumating ang asawa ko, inuupakan niya ako on the first floor, naririnig niya ako, sumisigaw-sigaw ko, gusto kong lumabas ng pintuan, hindi ako makalabas, pero sigurado ako at the very least, naririnig ako ng kapitbahay ko sa kanan, naririnig ako ng kapitbahay ko sa harap. Wala pong tumulong sa akin, pinabayaan ako until hindi ko alam kung paano natapos yun at hindi ko alam kung paano tumigil yung bugbugan. So that's what I'm saying about society, no? It is very rampant sa atin na nakikita natin nangyayari yon pero hindi natin pinapakialaman. Yung mga batang pinapalo sa kalsada, ikaw bata ka, kinukurot ng mga nanay, ganyan. Before, I never used to call them out. Hindi ko sinasabihan yung mga nanay at mga tatay at mga yaya na gano'n ang mga trato sa mga bata. Pero now that I see that, and now that I have learned, kasi nga sabi ko po sa inyo, hindi ko naman po alam to dati. Natuto na lang ako kasi pinag-aralan ko, pinagdaanan ko. Ngayon, I call them out. Tapos sabi ko, uy, bawal po yan, pwede kayong makasuhan. Diba? And again, it's a public crime. So I saw that crime being committed to the kid. Pwede ako pumunta sa barangay at sabihin, pwede niyo pong ikulong yung yaya, kasi po, sinasaktan niya yung bata. So again, it is our moral responsibility as citizens, whoever we see na binubugbog o sinasaktan po, kailangan po natin tulungan. Or at least, kung hindi man tayo, punta tayo sa barangay or punta kayo sa embassy in your case. At sabihin na may Pilipinong family dito na binubugbog po yung mga anak or whatever situation you see. But then po, this is, I think, my mission in life. The reason why probably God gave me and the universe gave me all these years of being under abuse, but then surviving it, is because I'm here talking in front of you to be able to probably help you or help somebody you know to get out of this abuse. So let me just give you, to encourage you, no, I'll just show you a bit of my life now to say that, yes, I was 19 years battered, hanggang financially halos wala na akong kapera-pera. But when I made that firm decision to leave the abusive relationship, everything fell into place and my life is wonderful. I just said one day, I am done. And then all of a sudden, I got a call from my friend who was in New York and he told me, I haven't heard from him for like 4 or 5 years. And he tells me, hey, Anne, I heard from our friend, because meron akong napagsabihan na friend who's also from New York. Sabi niya, hey, Anne, I heard from our friend that you're having problems. Okay, I have an event on October 2016. That was 2016, no? And I want you to come over here to help me. give me your bank account, I will send you $1,000 for your round trip ticket. I had the visa already kasi 3 years prior to that, my best friend who was going to, ililibre niya ako papunta sa States kasi nga, she knew that I was kind of in this kind of situation. So okay, everything fell into place. After my children are very, very independent, okay? Living in abuse makes you independent. So my kids stayed home, but my youngest was just 12 years old, went to my mom. Pinadala ko po sa mami ko. In 2 weeks, I was in New York. After 3 months, sabi ko, tago ako ng tago, hindi ako nagpo-post sa Facebook, no? So all the while, akala ng abuser ko, I was still in the Philippines. And then one day, sabi ko, ayoko na magtago. And then I post this picture of me na ang saya-saya ng buhay ko, basking under the Manhattan sun, okay? And then, ayun na, ang dami ng mga friends ko, nasa States ka pala, then they were sending me tickets. And again, I want to reiterate na wala po akong pera. Halos zero na po ang self-esteem ko at ang bulsa ko nung umalis ako papuntang Amerika. But because I made that decision, the universe connived with me and said, Anne, you deserve this after 18 years and probably you're going to be our poster girl for abuse and empowerment, something like that. So there I was. Okay, after 3 months, then my friend sends me a ticket going to New Mexico. Ayan, nasa top. Naglakad ako ng New Mexico, the 10th rocks. And then I went to LA, and then I went to 11 states, would you believe? And I had almost zero. And then my friends would give me money and they would say, tara, padala tayong balikbayan back. So I stayed there for almost 11 months. Humingi lang ako ng extension and I was granted an extension. So I stayed there until I had to come back to my family. Of course, they were waiting for me here. So my life after the abuse, when I came back to the Philippines, I got a hold of myself. Umakyat ako ng bundok. Ang laki ko po noon, no? Kasi stress eating ako. But then I said, I want to fix my life. I went hiking. Nag-archery ako. Again, wala akong gastos sa archery kasi one of my best friends is one of the coaches in Baguio. And he, before, na-realize niya one of my kids had the gift in coaching, in archery. And tinuruan niya yung daughter ko. So we became very, very close. So umakyat ako ng Baguio for a while, nag-archery ako, and then I got into biking, which ultimately healed me. Yan talaga yung healing ko, yung biking. And then nagturo po ako sa mga bata. And then nagturo ako sa kids, nagturo rin po ako sa mga sa senior high. So unti-unti I got back my life here in the Philippines, no? But then meron pa rin akong konting problema because pag napagalitan ako ng boss ko, nagre-resign ako pala, meron akong PTSD. Pag napagalitan ng boss ko, nanunumbalik ulit po yung lahat ng pain na nangyayari sa akin when I was in my abusive relationship. Parang nagfa-flashback siya sa lahat sa akin. It happened to me twice. I was working in real estate, I had to resign, and then I went in an NGO. Sabi ko, baka ito na yung sagot. Still the same thing. Sabi ko, naku, there's something wrong. Then I went to a psychologist. After 2 or 3 sessions, I was not totally healed, but I got it. Okay, traced back my abuse from my childhood, the reason why I was abused, and I allowed myself to be abused by my husband was because when I was a child, pinalo rin po ako ng nanay ko at ng tatay ko. Yun pala po yung comfort zone ko. Namura rin po ako nung bata ako. Kaya naman pala pinayagan ko. So that was my comfort zone. So again, shout out po sa mga magulang dyan. Please don't do that to your kids. Otherwise, magiging cycle po to. Babalik sila. Either they will become an abuser or they will be abused themselves. So let the buck stop here. Diba? Parang ito na po dapat yung ending. So ito po, this was my life. I found healing, went to the States, healed. Here in the Philippines, I found activities that would heal myself. And during po the pandemic, mas lalong I found more chances to help people. Dahil ang ayuda po natin dito, canned goods, sabi ko, patay, anong ipapakain ko sa mga anak ko kung puro canned goods at saka instant noodles? And again, hindi rin naman ganun yung work ko, diba? I still have 5 children, hindi ganun ka-okay yung work ko. And then, eventually in May, nawalan na rin ako ng trabaho. So, naisip ko, gawa tayo ng gawa tayo ng paraan. In-encourage ko yung backyard farming sa barangay namin. And then I got in touch with the Bureau of Plant Industry. Naging close ko sila. Binibigyan ako ng maraming seeds and I would give it away to different communities dito sa Quezon City, and then umabot kami sa Antipolo kasi nakita nila, uy, nagba-backyard farming, pahinging seeds. So we'd go up to Antipolo, ganyan, magbabike kami, binibigyan namin sila ng seeds. So again, I found power in the situations that were negative. And then we put up a website yung sa food sustainability. A Facebook page pala, tapos nagtuturo po kami doon ng nagtuturo kami how to do container farming. And then I still continued on doing my webinars for violence against women. So nasakop na po natin yung 18-day campaign noong November. Umabot na tayo dito sa March na Women's Month at lockdown pa rin tayo. So I've been doing a lot of webinars for mga government agencies and some school from mga educational institutions. Ito po yung pride and joy namin that we put up Bikers United movement kasi nung naramdaman namin na bubukas na yung public transportation at marami nang nagbabike dahil nga they took up biking during the lockdown, wala pa rin protection. Bumuo po kami, 7 lang kami magkakaibigan, pumunta kami sa Commonwealth, tapos naglagay kami ng temporary bike lanes. And now po, we're very happy to say na marami na pong bike lanes sa buong Pilipinas because of this po, what we did. So nakita nyo, nandito ako sa EDSA, nandito ako sa Commonwealth. Tapos may mga times rin po namimigay kami ng vests, ng helmets, at saka ng bikes po. And again, these are all donations, hindi po galing sa aming bulsa to. Marami pong tumulong sa amin. So ang binigay po namin is our time and the capacity that we have. At saka talagang yung puso po namin that we really want to help the frontliners who went out, and learn how to bike dun pa lang, sa pandemic pa lang. So they needed protection. Then we put the bike lanes up. And here are my 5 children. Okay, akala ko, ayoko iwanan yung asawa ko kasi mawawalan ng tatay yung mga anak ko. But on the other hand, my children are beautiful. They're wonderful. Not because I'm their mom, but I'm saying that they became strong because of the abuse. Of course, I will not wish an abuse to happen to any child in the whole universe. Okay po? Because it's really, really painful. Up until now, my biggest guilt is allowing my children to go through that. So please, kung may nakikita po kayong bata o kahit sino po, again, you go in between that. But again, I thank, all my family and friends. And of course, I thank our creator that my kids are fine. I have a daughter named Isabel. She's in Ballet Philippines. She's a ballerina. She's gone through a lot different countries because of her talent. Si Nathan is my eldest son. He's my oldest. Siya yung parang tumayong tatay when they were all going through abuse. Siya yung big kuya, but then takot sa kanya lahat ng 4 niya na kapatid. He's an IT professional, so I'm happy that he's doing his thing, and he's also into multimedia. Kat is my number 3 daughter. She is a leader and she's a very good writer. On her own, she was able to go to Thailand and she attended a leadership seminar, parang sponsored by the United Nations, from what I understand. Nicole, my daughter, on top, medyo bata pa siya dyan. I think she was 12 years old. She's now 17. Inaantay na lang po na mag-open ang face-to-face and kukunin na siya ng Baguio archery team. And she's going to be a scholar in Baguio and then she's going to compete. And my daughter, dito po sa baba, nakita nyo, si Karen, she's a filmmaker and she's a marine biologist. So I just want to share with you that, yes, these are children who went through massive abuse since childhood. They never saw a life na hindi na abuso. Kasi nasa tiyan ko pa lang sila, nabubugbog na ako. But then it did not hinder their progress. They're empowered children too. So ito po, so that's my story. Thank you very much for listening. This is me and my children, my 5 children, and happy Women's Day to everybody. Ingat po kayo, and again, thank you for inviting me to be able to help, probably educate, and kung na-enlighten ko man kayo, thank you very much. If anybody has to get in touch with me, if you have anybody or maybe you're suffering, I have my Facebook page at AnnAngelaPH, or you can email me annangelaph@gmail.com. Again, thank you very much and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Anne. Maraming salamat. Nako, ang iyong testimonya ay nagbibigay lakas sa mga kababaihan na naging biktima ng violence, also ng domestic violence. And sa lahat po ng nanonood ngayon, magandang narinig natin ang mga karagdagang kaalaman na ito. Ang violence against women and children ay nasa iba't ibang form. There is sexual violence, there is physical violence, psychological violence, and also economic violence. Alam natin ito. Pero narinig na natin ito sa mga paulit-ulit na webinar, sa paulit-ulit na mga forum. Pero ang isang na-highlight ngayong araw na to ni Miss Anne is that ang tendency natin na maging tahimik, ang hindi mag-react sa violence na ito. Dahil Pilipino tayo, lumaki tayo sa isang patriarchal society. Lumaki tayo na ang babae sa bahay, ang babae napapagalitan, ang babae okay lang yung konting abuso, ang domestic violence ay tama, usapang mag-asawa lang yan. So there is a need to correct this perspective. Ang domestic violence po, ang violence against women and children is a human rights violation. Isa po itong krimen. Isa po itong totoong krimen na hindi ibig sabihin ang usapang mag-asawa lang ito. So sa mga biktima po ng domestic violence, it is good to know that the government is there. May iba't iba pong grupo. We can reach out to Anne po for resources that she may offer. We can reach out po to our consulate, to the Philippine Overseas Labor Office. Sa chat group po, meron na tayong nakitang mga comments. Meron na rin pong nag-report. We have privately answered their question. So ang kailangan nating maintindihan ay dapat we have to make our voices heard. Merong mga grupo, katulad ng Miss Ditz, salamat sa iyong comment po. Merong, if we can unmute Miss Ditz de Jesus of Bologna, we would like to acknowledge her presence. Miss Ditz, if you can, sa iyo ko na gustong kunin, Miss Angela, si Miss Ditz po ay isa ring women empowerment leader. Marami po siyang iba't ibang grupo. At isa sa comments na nakita ko sa ating chat group ay she shared with us a resource. Yung app na sinasabi niyo, Miss Ditz, if you could talk about this briefly. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Yung pong app 1522, kasi po nung last year may isinulat ako sa Apo ay Pilipino na article tungkol sa domestic violence during the pandemic crisis dito sa Italy. Ngayon po, nakita ko yung app 1522 kung saan pwedeng tumawag kung sino man yung nakakaranas ng domestic violence at saka stalking. Tapos nito po, meron silang inilunsad uli yung Polizia di Estado, yung UPOL, kung saan yung pwede kang on the spot, isend mo yung video o text ng nangyayaring krimen o pananakit ng domestic violence. Kaya yun po yung maitutulong, mabilisan po yun. Para siyang WhatsApp at Viber na nakahook up ka kaagad doon sa police. Pero yun po, dito naman yun talagang basihan ng pag-report. Dahil andyan pa rin po yung ating kwestura kung saan pwede mo ring i-report yung nangyari sa iyo o sa kapitbahay nyo o kung sino mang kakilala ninyo. Dahil sabi nga po, pwede kang mag-report ng kahit na anong krimen na nakikita mo na ikaw ang testigo. Kaya tandaan po natin dito sa Italy yung app 1522 at saka UPOL. Mabilis po yun.
Maraming salamat Miss Ditz. Nako, very helpful po ito. Miss Angela informed us about the different movements and activities, initiatives sa Pilipinas. Para sa atin pong nandito sa Italia, yung app 122, no? And UPOL na flash ni Hertz earlier sa ating screen. Baka maybe we can take a screenshot again, Hertz, for those na watching. Let's see if we can download this. It's a good instant help. Pag meron tayong na-witness na violence, meron tayong gustong i-report dahil ang kalaban natin usually yung takot na may makaalam, yung takot na naku, nakikialam tayo. But this one, I believe it protects also our privacy, but more importantly, nare-report kaagad ang mga pangyayari ito. Meron rin tayong, gusto ko lang i-highlight, meron rin tayong mga cases patulad sa Modena, may mga instances how drugs and domestic violence, drug use and domestic violence are related also sa mga living with partners, spouses who are drug users or drug abusers. Kadalasan ang resulta nito is may domestic violence. Pero ano po ang nangyayari? Takot tayong mag-report dahil saan ba kami pwedeng pumunta? Saan ba tayo pwedeng pumunta pag nag-report tayo nito? Ang takot natin is ano ang mangyayari sa ating asawa? Ano ang mangyayari sa atin? So again, we have the police, the Italian police, we have the consulate, we have these apps, UPOL and yung app 122. These are very helpful. So sa lahat po ng mga nanonood, please take note of those. And I see a lot of familiar faces sa ating call ngayon sa iba't ibang lugar mula Treviso, Veneto, Bologna. Maraming salamat. You are, syempre karamihan ay kababaihan. So let's give ourselves a round of applause, please. Naka-gallery view tayo ngayon lahat. Ang Filipino community of San Lorenzo, si Miss Gina, Nandiyan, Delia. I can see everyone. Ako, mauubos ang oras natin if I read everyone's name. Si Noni, Nandiyan. Alam nyo, ang mga mukhang nakikita natin ngayon, I hope first we are flashing this on our screen. Bilang pagpugay sa mga kababaihan sa ngayong buwan ng Lari. Kailangan isuot mo ang wig mo. Puro babae ang naka-highlight dito. But bilang pagpupugay sa ating mga kababaihan, ngayong buwan ng kababaihan, nakakainis isang buwan lang sa buong taon, pinagbigyan natin ng mga lalaki dahil alam naman talaga nila na ang buong taon ay para sa kababaihan. Pagbigyan na natin sila, kunyari isang buwan lang ang sa atin. But please give yourselves a round of the applause. And I would like to acknowledge also all of the Polo team members, our welfare officer, Ms. Lynn Vivar, Women Power. Uunahin ko ang mga kababaihan, si Ms. Tony Ocon. Where is Trisha? Is Trisha here? Si Trisha also is here, Arcelia. At syempre ang aming, other half ng mga kababaihan, si Larry, si Gibbs, si Hertz, nandito rin. Meron ba akong nakalimutan? But we also have Nancy, Trisha, our other attached agencies, si Mylene and Jess. As you all know, we've had cases of COVID recently. Please continue to support us. But as you all see, nandito pa rin kami. We're here to continue to provide service to all of you. Aside from the domestic violence na issue natin ngayong araw na ito at center of ang topic natin, there is the COVID and isa ho tayo dito sa laban against COVID. So we would like to thank all of you for participating in this webinar. Sana nakapulot kayo ng kahit paanong konting kaalaman, karagdagang kaalaman ukol sa violence against women. But most of all, I hope you take pride in being women. At meron po, tamo, isang webinar lang to, may natutunan na tayo. From the Philippine angle, Ms. Angela has shared with us. Thank you for trusting us with your story. And ang story niya ay story ng karamihan rin sa atin. At nakita rin natin ang mga resources here in Italy. Let's take note of all these things. There's the chat group, there's the consulate, there's the Polo Milan page. Send your messages, send your comments, good, bad, in need of assistance. Just send it so we can all help address it. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Happy Women's Month to all of us, kalalakihan, kababaihan, and more power to everyone. Yay! Salamat!
Thank you po sa lahat. Bye-bye.
Thank you po. Thank you.
Thank you and
Thank
bye-bye.
you to our Consul General Dean Amato,
Thank you so
Sienna, and
much.
those who have joined us today
Hello, Sir
in Facebook
Hertz.
Live. Bye-bye.
Ma'am Lee, bye-bye. Ma'am
Thank you so much
Ann,
po.
bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye po.
Pinito ka na.